This is Mark Bell from SuperTraining.tv, Super Training Gym, the strongest gym in the West. And we have an awesome day of squats in this video coming up for you, along with some speed pulls. Remember, strength is never a weakness. Enjoy the video. Here we got Marcus going. On this day, a lot of guys were using some bands. You can also see that Marcus is utilizing the hip circle from howmuchyoubench.net to activate the glutes a little bit more and to cue him to force his knees out. It's imperative that you force your knees out while squatting. A lot of guys will have their knees kind of collapse inward, and it will create a weaker position, and that's not what we're all about. We're trying to always create a stronger position, and we're always trying to maintain strong positions, as Mr. Robot Pants does a good job of here. You're going to notice each guy kind of has their own style. Notice a different bar placement. Silent Mike has a little bit of a low bar placement there, but what is common amongst people that squat well, and by people squatting well is just people that squat the most amount of weight, is they have a good relationship to where the barbell is. There's myself going in some weird getup. They have a good relationship between where the barbell is and where their hips are. And they're also, you can see Marcus here is kind of the type of squatter that's not afraid to use his lower back. And so he kind of folds at the hips a little bit to get his squat going. He holds the bar real low. Little Smokey almost has a similar style, but with a little bit closer stance. So each guy's got a little bit different bar placement, but you can see a lot of these guys in this group in particular have the bar a little bit low. That's very typical amongst powerlifters. A lot of world records have been set with the bar very low. A lot of Olympic lifters, however, go with the bar in a much higher position. If you're a newer lifter, I would say there's no such thing as high and low for a newer lifter. Just find a place that's comfortable enough that allows you to lift the most amount of weight, and don't really worry about whether the bar is high or low. But as you become more advanced, you can start to play around with the different levels. There's a pretty good squat by myself. Again, the bands help to accommodate resistance. You have more weight at the top and less weight in the bottom. So you're going to have to try to plow through those sticking points, as Marcus is doing there. Marcus has very, very strong quads. You can see he's got good pop out of the bottom, good strong lockout. The bands help to accommodate the resistance. The weights are always going to be heavier at the top, a little bit lighter at the bottom. It can teach you how to become faster. It's a great tool for newer lifters to teach them to stay tight, because the band tension, the resistance that the band provides is much different than a free weight. There's a little Smokey going, and you see how fast he went on the way down. In my opinion, that is the best way to squat the most amount of weight. There are certainly multiple ways to squat heavy weight, but trying to be aggressive from the top of the lift, to me, is very important. You can see Chris Ramos just really went for it right there, too. He just kind of dove down into that first squat. Everyone's going to look a little different on how they do it. You can see Mr. Robot Pants is a little bit more methodical in his approach, but at the same time, doesn't mean he's not aggressive. He's still attacking those weights. He's still starting the lift. He's starting the descent quickly. Silent Mike got a little broken there. Silent Mike is losing weight, and you can see that belt is on its last hole there. So he's down to about 190 pounds, and sometimes when you're losing weight, it gets harder and harder to judge how much weight you can actually handle. So anybody out there who's losing weight, always take smaller jumps in your training rather than, if you're used to taking 25 or you're used to taking 50-pound jumps and so on, you're going to want to turn those 50-pound jumps into 20-pound jumps, and maybe even only 10-pound jumps in some cases. You're going to see some guys are looking down at the ground as well. You're probably wondering what the hell these guys are looking for that's down on the ground. See, Marcus has a different type of style with his hands. The important part about all this is just that we're all different. Everyone's got a different body type. We have different shapes, different sizes, and different strokes for different folks, basically. Now we're moving on to some box squats. For myself, it's really hard for me to keep a low barbell position. When I was a geared lifter, I always kept the bar about where I have it now, maybe just a little bit lower than where I have it now. And it was always comfortable for me up there. So trying to adapt and get the bar lower has been a little bit weird for me. I did successfully squat 683 in the gym with a low bar position, but it was just something I could never figure out all that well. It was just always a little bit weird for me. So here I am just kind of moving around with the weights a little bit higher. I'm not going to have no plans to compete anymore. So I just put the bar wherever the hell it's comfortable, and I just go and I do my squats. The reason for the box squats is, again, as I mentioned many, many times over, is the box squat is just another great form of squatting. You have front squats, you have a regular back squat, you got high bar, you got low bar. You also have, something like a searcher squat, and you have, close stance squats, wide stance squats. You got Olympic style squats, and you also have the box squat. Each squat is going to kind of give you some different results and different training effect, different training stimulus. But the box squat, in my opinion, is a fantastic way to train your squat, and so that's why we do them here at Super Training. Do them quite often. What we're trying to do is we're trying to keep that shin angle pretty much straight up and down. We're trying to sit back into those squats, and we're trying to open up. We're trying to force the knees out. We're trying to sit on the box and then explode back up from the bottom of the lift. So with a box squat, you're always trying to be explosive. You're trying to get the weight moving quickly on the way up on the concentric portion of it. Now we're moving into some speed pulls. We got Marcus setting up here. When we're doing speed work, I think there's some misconceptions about it. You don't have to just go a million miles an hour and look like you're having a seizure. What we're trying to do is we are trying to work on force production and form perfection. And I would say that form would probably go first because without the form being executed correctly, you're not going to be able to exhibit the most amount of force and the most amount of strength throughout the entire range of motion. So the form is going to come first, and you see Silent Mike is trying to lock in his form here. We have a day where we go much heavier than this. Obviously, this is just about 2 plates, not representing anywhere near anyone's maxes, but it's just a day to try to work on some different positions. You can see Mike's kind of going with a high hip position. I'm not sure exactly, what his goal is there, whether he's just trying to feel that out or if he's trying to play with just something new that he might, add in somewhere else. But you're going to kind of notice that from each guy. They might, some guys on some sets might pull with their head down. They might pull the next set with their head up. Because it's speed work and because the weights are light, it doesn't really matter. All that matters is that we're trying to make ourselves better. And sometimes, in order to make yourself better, you got to really try to figure out what's going to be the best position, the best spot, the best sensation for you to have each and every time you set up on the barbell. Speed pulls are typically done for many sets. We do usually around 6 to 8 sets, and we usually do anywhere from 2 to 4 repetitions, depending on the week. You can see I'm trying to get my shoulders up a little higher. Somebody who rounds over quite a bit in both the deadlift and the squat. And so lately, I've been trying to do sets of 5, sets of 6. I'm somebody that is a big believer in the conjugate system, have followed it for many years now. But just recently, I've kind of shifted into adding a little bit more repetitions into everything. So normally when you do speed work, it's normally a 1 to 3 rep range, whether it's bench, squat, or deadlift. But for myself, I've kind of bulked it up a little bit to about 5 or 6 reps, whether it's max effort day or whether it's the speed work. But sometimes on max effort day, I get too caught up in what we're doing. I get too excited, and I don't reach for my rep goals sometimes. It's easy to do that, but you shouldn't do that. You should stick to your plan and not really worry about what anybody else is doing. There's Casey. Casey's a strong dude. Casey has pretty good form on his deadlifts. He's about 6'3", 6'4", I think, somewhere in that range. I know he's a lot taller than me, that's for sure. But a lot of times, I get questions about how taller lifters should lift, and they should lift the same way as everybody else. With a taller lifter, a lot of times they'll have really good leverages for deadlifting. Grip strength is a limiting factor in a deadlift sometimes. And with a guy like Casey, because he's taller, a lot of times the hands will be bigger and the grip strength will be a little bit less of a problem. So you have no excuse if you're tall. Also, taller lifters can sometimes struggle in some other areas, such as the squat or the bench press. But you know, most of the big time bench pressers are not necessarily short. Eric Spoto, I would say, is at least 5'10 or 5'11, which isn't particularly tall, but it's definitely not short in terms of powerlifting standards. And then Scott Mendelson is of similar height. And then you have Kirill Serkev. I hope I'm saying that name right. He is about 6'5", but he also pulls 881, and he also bench presses over 700 pounds raw at 6'5". So don't use height, don't use your body weight or body type, don't use any of that bullshit as an excuse. Just continue to work on your craft and continue to work on getting stronger. And that's what we do here when we're working on these speed deadlifts. Is we're working on our craft, we're working on getting stronger. That's what those two guys were working on, little Smokey with right there. Strength is never a weakness, and that is it from supertraining.tv.